students?
34 till now.
Okay, let us start.
Okay,
They'll join.
okay. So a very warm good afternoon to everyone present in the webinar. I would like to welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. S.P. Singh sir, Honorable Academic Chairperson Professor A.K. Buragohai sir, Honorable Executive Vice President Ankur Pansari sir, Honorable Registrar Angira Mimani ma'am, HOD, Royal School of Communications and Media, Florence Hendy Grabha ma'am. Our special guest and speaker of the day, Afrida Rahman Ali, a prominent news anchor and senior journalist. All the participants, including senior teachers, students, and scholars. As we talk about journalism and ethics, I would like to inform you that under the leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Royal Global University started a department, Royal School of Communications and Media, in 2017. And along with undergraduate and postgraduate degrees in journalism and mass communication, there are even research scholars who are pursuing PhD in various media and journalism areas. Many passed out students of our department are working as journalists in prominent media houses, and media ethics is a major portion of our journalism curriculum. Recently, Royal Global University has been ranked number one in Assam by Education World, India's higher education rankings for 2020-21. Royal Global University caters to 27 schools offering 130 plus courses. The campus is secure, well maintained, and facilitated with state of the art amenities, including conducive classrooms, conference rooms, auditoriums, studios, moot court, 85 plus high tech labs, libraries, and infirmaries. Learning in Royal Global University goes beyond the classrooms and textbooks. Royal Global University strives for academic excellence through research intensive and industry oriented education, instilled with a strong sense of becoming a global citizen. Journalism today is surrounded by various debates, and the news in today's world are questionable as every media organization have their own perspective on any given event. As the world is going through tough times because of the pandemic COVID-19, even media houses are facing challenges. Revenue generation has decreased, content creation has become expensive, and in such scenario, following ethics is a huge challenge. But journalism requires ethics or any other sector. So today, therefore, it is required to discuss on ethics in journalism during COVID time. So let me now invite our head of the department, Florence Hendy Grabha ma'am, who is assistant professor and HOD, Royal School of Communications and Media, a prominent television personality, actor, former radio jockey, author of Celebrating Womanhood, founder and principal of Scholars Home Public School since 1996. Ma'am, please say a few words.
You have to unmute yourself.
You are mute, ma'am. Please unmute yourself.
All right. Where do I don't know, it is not happening.
Yeah, you're audible now. You're audible now. You can speak, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Rahul Chanda, for the beautiful introduction. Dr. Rahul Chanda himself is a very popular assistant professor in Royal Global University in our department, RSCOM. And good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, my dear colleagues and respected seniors and my dear students. On behalf of Royal School of Communications and Media, Royal Global University, I once again welcome you all to our webinar. We are fortunate to have with us our Honorable Vice Chancellor, RGO, Professor Dr. Sanjay Pratap Singh sir, amongst us today. Right now, he is busy in a meeting, so Jenny just called up and she told me that whenever he will be free, he will try to join us. So we will be waiting for him. He will try his best to join us. We are also happy to have with us respected Registrar ma'am. I cannot see her. I hope she has joined. And welcome, ma'am. And welcome, sir. And I extend a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Mrs. Afrida Rahman Ali from Mirror Now, Mumbai. Welcome, Afrida. It is really very sweet and kind of you to have, agreed to speak in this webinar and interact with our young students of mass communication and journalism. I spoke to her just a few days ago over phone, and in spite of her busy schedule, she agreed. So we are very happy to have you here, Afrida. Dear participants, our topic for today is, as you know, ethics in journalism in COVID times. In times of crisis, it is more important than ever that people are well informed in order to take appropriate precautions and stay calm. However, media can either be a help or a hindrance, right? So, according to the World Health Organization, the COVID-19 outbreak and response have been accompanied by a massive infodemic, an overabundance of information, some accurate, some not. That makes it hard for people to find trustworthy sources and reliable guidance when they need it. Although fake information has been a growing phenomenon since the past decade, it has taken a global pandemic to show the importance of trustworthy news. Many fail to consider what exactly encompasses the criteria for reliable sources. How can anybody be sure that the information they are reading is accurate anyway? Professional journalists follow a code of ethics and principles that guide them in providing the most accurate information. And I strongly feel it is important to identify and revisit these principles during these COVID times. According to the Ethical Journalist Network, the five main principles of ethical journalism are truth and accuracy, independence, fairness and impartiality, humanity, and accountability. You all know that, right? So today, Royal Global University is hosting this online lecture, online webinar about reporting during these COVID times. During these times, it is necessary that subject experts like Dr. Rohin, Dr. Rahul, and experienced journalists like Afrida provide advice ranging from reporter self-care and equipment sanitation techniques to ethics concerns and methods for telling stories about resilience and grief. We need to focus on strategies and work together to support and educate our young students and future journalists who are present here during this rapidly changing, multifaceted, and unprecedented global crisis. What can reporters do to cover this crisis most effectively? What are the stories that need to be told today and tomorrow, next week, or next month, and over the long period? How can journalists do their work safely given the restrictions of movement and in-person contact? So these are some of the issues and topics I'm sure our guest speaker will discuss today. I'm looking forward to listening to Afrida. I'm sure this webinar will be a very interesting and informative. It will be very informative for the students when our guest speaker will share her work experiences, and you all will have an in-depth and clear insight about the real world of reporting and journalism, especially in electronic media. I'm sure you will also learn something more than what you usually read in your books in the classrooms or during online classes these days. And thank you once again, Ms. Afrida, for sparing your valuable time for asking this today. Now over to Dr. Rahul Chanda.
Thank you very much for your words, ma'am. Now, we're talking about our guest speaker, Afrida Rahman Ali, senior journalist and a prominent TV anchor. After completing a master's in mass communication from Jamia Millia Islamia University, she started her career with TV Today Network in 2002 as a Delhi bureau reporter with Aaj Tak channel. Later, in her tenure, she worked as a Northeast bureau chief in Assam, during which she covered the region extensively for both Hindi and English news. Before joining Times Now in Mumbai, she was the morning show host in Headlines Today and a senior news anchor in NewsX. In July 2030, she moved to Mumbai and joined the Times television network. She is currently working with Mirror Now. Just a minute. Hello, I request the participants to please mute. Anasuya Das, please mute yourself. Yeah. Okay. So in July 2013, she moved to Mumbai and joined the Times television network. She is currently working with Mirror now, doing daily news bulletins and primetime shows on Sundays. She is also an active video blogger on topics of national interest. In her blog called Two Sides of a Coin, she brings out the highlights of the current raising debate in a quick capsule. Welcome, ma'am, to the webinar, and we are honored with your presence. I request you to please address the webinar on the topic ethics in journalism during COVID times. I also humbly request all the participants again to please mute the audio and turn off the video. Meanwhile, you can text your questions in the chat box and we will raise it at the end of the session. Afrida, ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rahul Chanda, and thank you, Florence Sandik, for your wonderful words. And thanks for this opportunity to the Media and Communications Department of the Royal Global University. It's my absolute pleasure, my honor and privilege to be amongst you today and to get this opportunity to address students. I've always loved interacting with students, and because this is in Assam, all the more I'm happy and proud that I'm getting this opportunity. All thanks to you, Florence, and also respected seniors who are attending this right now from the university. My gratitude that you've taken out time to come and join and listen in. So students, today, basically, since I've been given this topic of ethics in journalism in COVID times, what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to also explain to you, because coming from the field, I'm actively working in the field right now. So I suppose that you will benefit more from the real-time experiences. Since you do a lot of theory, you're learning from your textbooks, and I'm not going to give you too much of stuff that is already in theory, but I'm going to tell you what happens in the real world. So my first idea is to give you a concept of how the business model works in a news organization, because everything flows from there. We cannot talk about ethics in the air. We have to place it in context. So I'm going to first tell you how a news organization, what is the business model, and what are the limits or constraints or framework that you operate within. Then I'm going to, of course, run you through the cardinal principles of ethics in journalism, which Florence has very nicely encapsulated in 5 points. I'm going to be a little bit more elaborate than that. And then we are going to talk about the highly contentious issue, the favorite term these days, media trial. What is a media trial? And when does authentic reporting on a subject, or say or an expose or an uncovering the truth, become a media trial? When does legitimate journalism relegate into a media trial, which, as we all know, is not the ideal situation? A trial is not supposed to be done by the media. Yeah, sorry.
Afrida, ma'am, because you are still you are still starting. So I would like to just inform you that our honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir Professor S.P. Singh, he has joined us because he was very busy.
Right.
He just joined us. So for a few minutes. So I will just talk about him, and then he will just speak for 2 minutes, and then you can conclude.
Sure.
Please, so Professor Dr. S.P. Singh, sir, has been associated.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Suravi.
Professor Dr. S.P. Singh, sir, has been associated with the Royal Group from its inception in 2009 as the founder director of the institution.
Darshana, you can introduce the next.
He further moved to Amity Education Group in 2013. Sir.
Rahul.
Sir.
I have little issue here. I am in another meeting also. I was not expecting that you will call me in between. So I would just say best of luck to all the participants and especially to the speaker. I'm so sorry. There's a selection committee meeting going on here on another platform. So it is impossible for me to be there both the places. So Afrida, it was really nice meeting you here, and I was listening to you for a few minutes.
Thank you.
And I think I will try to join you again, maybe at the end of the webinar, if at all possible. My best wishes to you. Carry on. Rahul, please.
Thank you, Professor.
Always ask.
Thank you so much.
I'm into another thing also, right? I'm so sorry for this. I mean, like,
no, it's okay.
It is really not possible. Two things came in between. So my best wishes to all of you, participants, and Afrida and Royal School of Mass Communication. Thank you very much for organizing this. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Afida ma'am, you can continue with your.
Yeah, so I was first of all just putting out the structure that I'm going to follow during this lecture, because I'm told I have about 30 minutes and then there'll be questions. So I'm going to, like I said, first give you how the business model works. I'll take you through the cardinal principles of journalism and ethics, and then we will dwell on this topic of media trial. And yes, though the topic is within COVID times, I think I will make it a little bit more broad-based, if it is okay with everybody, because so that it benefits everyone. So shall we start then? Is everybody who's expected to be here already, right? Yeah, okay. So my experience,
Yes,
first
yes,
of all,
sure.
is entirely in television news, because I started my career in television news. So I like to call myself the first generation television journalist in this country, because I was never with print or with any other thing. I straight away joined television at a time when news television was just about, coming up in a big way. So I had the experience of going through this entire graph of initially being extremely idealistic and everything, and then slowly I've seen some erosion of those values, and now we are at a very critical juncture, of course, in and the entirely now is the time where a lot of things are in a state of flux because of the digital media also coming into the picture, and fake news, one of the issues that we are all dealing with. And like Florence, I think, mentioned how this has become a bigger pandemic, according to some people, more than the real pandemic. Misinformation, falsehoods being spread through the very easy medium of social media. So those challenges are there. I don't think I'll have enough time to go into that subject, but I'm going to stick to this structure that I've made for today. So let's begin with talking about the model that a news organization operates. And this is my experience from the real world, which you may not find in your textbooks, so to speak. So how does a news organization work? The point is that when you have a news channel, one must understand that it is mostly free. You pay very little amount of money as a consumer to access that information on your television, right? So who pays for it? Obviously, there are sponsors, there are advertisers. So I'll make it very simple for students to understand. Say a bunch of 50 people, the sponsors, the advertisers, are paying for the 50 lakh people, for the teeming millions out there, to get this content or to get this information which is airing on your TV screens. Why are these 50 people paying for it? Because they are the private companies, the private entities who have products, and those products are advertised on the channels. So within your content will be embedded the whole the advertisements of these products which are bombarded. So that way these private entities are reaching out to the TV audience. So therefore they are paying for the content. So that's primarily how it works, which I'm sure most of you are already aware of. Now, why this is important in the context of ethics is because, and this has been raging on since time immemorial, about whether these sponsors dictate terms to the editors, to the news organizations, uh, as to what kind of content should be aired. Today, the problem is at another level. Today, the problem is because the private sector advertisements have shrunk. The government has become the biggest advertiser. So therefore, the questions arising on a lot of these channels pandering to the ruling party or the government of the day in order to get maximum advertisement, or basically that kind of a quid pro quo. I'm saying all this in a very hypothetical manner. I'm not saying this is happening right now. I'm saying this is how the model is. But yes, some of it is happening right now. I don't want to really go into that as a since I'm actively working in the business, but I'm just trying to tell you how things are working. So that is primarily the model which exists in the real world right now. Okay, so now, yes, there are questions of ethics. There are questions of whether are you going to report a story on its merit because it needs to be covered in a certain way, or are you going to in some way follow a narrative or a brief given to you to pander to a certain side? Yeah. So today in this country, that is primarily the dilemma. A lot of journalists, as you know, very senior seasoned journalists, have fallen out of mainstream because they stood up to certain ideas and they could not survive. That has happened. Okay, so this is from in terms of how in the real world, the question of ethics right now. Now let's talk about quickly take you through the basic cardinal principles of ethics, and then I'll give you examples from my life or what I have faced, because it's all very well to say that this is how it should be. This is, you have to be accuracy and honesty and truthfulness, but in real world, when you're out there, what are the situations you face? So let's take the first cardinal principle, accuracy, right? In reporting, what does it mean? It simply means that your reporting, your facts should be correct. Your facts should be in terms of should not be questionable in terms of whether you anything should not be in any way fabricated, right? Now, in television news, the biggest question around accuracy happens in my initial years. What I faced was, it was the channel I worked for was Aaj Tak, and the tagline was "Sabse Tez." So we as reporters, and I was a very enthusiastic, I was very energetic, very enthusiastic, out to kind of do great things in this world as a 22-year-old. So when I came in, and we were pushed with this tagline that you've got to get there first, you've got to report first, and the story has to be on air on Aaj Tak first, Sabse Tez. So I was out there on the field, and we always had that competitiveness. Ki Star News se pehle karna hai, So, but then somewhere we realized that there was a bit of a problem or compromise happening in accuracy. Sometimes we, in the mad rush, we are missing out on important facts, or we are misreporting certain things. So we get pulled up. Then one fine day, there was this meeting, and I remember very clearly, I really respect Mr. Arun Puri, the owner of the television of India Today network, who told us, and this I learned very early in life from the stalwart, so I must share it. That is something was drilled into us, that never compromise accuracy for speed. So accuracy must come before speed. Don't be in a mad rush to report something when you're not sure, just because you want to get there first. So that's number one. Second, correct an error openly. If you find something that has gone wrong, do not try then to hide it and cover up, and then one lie leads to the other. It is always better to own up, because what I have seen even in real life, lies and deception cannot be done for too long. Truth has a way of emerging, and as students you must know this. People who are thinking, there are a lot of people out there even in television news who are resorting to a lot of lies and deception. They may be having their time under the sun now, but trust me, truth has a way of emerging. The truth will always emerge. It finds a way, and it happens in the most unexpected ways. When you least expect it, truth will emerge, and everybody will then be exposed. So never be afraid to actually call out a mistake. And I'm going to use this opportunity to give another important thing that I learned during my career. Why I say never be afraid is something that I have learned, that courage is one of the most important things that journalists need. Courage is even more important than your caliber or your creativity. And this is a standard thing that I keep saying wherever I get invited, because it's my favorite line. Courage over creativity and caliber is what you need more than creativity and caliber. More than aptitude, you need attitude. Sometimes the right attitude and the right approach is very important. So when you come from a place of honesty and you say, no matter what, I'm going to stick to this, this is my principle, that approach and that attitude is even more important than your aptitude. You may have great aptitude, great knowledge, great textbook learning, but your approach and your attitude, make sure that is placed correctly. Conflict of interest, again, something that you'll keep hearing. For example, my husband is a banker. Now, I am asked to report on a story on loan moratorium, and this has happened very recently. So when I take my husband's opinion, obviously it will be very biased towards the banking system, right? So if I put out a story where I interview certain people, I have to put it out to my editor that this is the organization that my husband works for, and this is the story you're assigning me, and I'm doing it, but there could be a possible conflict of interest. Or say, it may even happen that you may have to interview a relative of yours who's in a position of power. So always make it open that so-and-so is related to me, or so and so is in a position where I'm doing this story, but this could arise. Again, that is another important point. Then privileged information, if somebody is sharing with you, you have to guard the privacy of that person. This is again an important principle. A lot of people do it, a lot of people don't. But like I said, your principles and your ethics are yours to follow. These are some of the cardinal principles that I am sharing. Now, sources have to be protected from their authority. Say, for instance, again, let's take the example of any bank scam. Now, you have managed to get information, you got privy to some information which has given you leads to a scam in this bank. Now, the person who has given you the leads, in all honesty, wants a cleanup because he has seen corruption happening. So he, being part of that system, has given you the story. Obviously, this is not something he has done in the full knowledge of his authorities at work. So you are going to break that story. It will be great for you. You've got a great scoop and it's going to be splashed across the headlines that so-and-so has done this story. Make sure you protect that person from facing the wrath, because sometimes in our enthusiasm to get the story, we forget and the person gets exposed and he may lose his job, right? So these are certain things you have to follow while you are reporting a story. Never fabricate or plagiarize. You know what plagiarism is, right? Sometimes it's a very common tendency. Even I would sometimes fall into the trap. I read a story on a newspaper and I'm like, I'm going to do this story, But if you do that, then you might as well give some credit to the person who originally did that story. And I used to do that a lot in Assam because you get a lot of stories from the regional papers and you do not have that much of contacts everywhere. So information that comes from the regional papers, I used to pitch those stories to my editor. But I would make sure that I, some way or the other, give some credit to the person who actually did that story, or either in my piece to camera or something, somewhere, make sure you give credit. Obviously, and this is something very natural, and to say that never accept a bribe and never alter a fact. So these are the principles I had taken down, which I'm sharing with you. Now, over and above those principles that are important and my experiences from real life, now the question is on a very big, larger issue of media trial, which is being discussed extensively these days. So I think I should dwell on that topic a bit before we go to anything else. So what is a media trial? When does a legitimate issue, a legitimate coverage of an issue become a media trial? And I have seen so many cases in my entire career. Like I said, I've worked in Times Now as well. And sometimes the stories that we have done, the coverage that we have done, have actually helped in the overall cause of, say, cleanup of corruption. Say Godmen, for instance. Now, in this country where devotion is such a big deal, that a person, self-proclaimed guru, and all kinds of dirt is going around, and they develop so much of clout because, and then they are not questioned, because this is one area, religion is one area where people don't want to even go there or question. It's like faith ko koi sawal nahi karte, like something like that. But yeah, who is going to question all the stuff that goes around behind the door? Somebody has to do it. So one courageous journalist or reporter had to do it. That's why then your Asaram Bapus got exposed, and then later so many of them, right? So I was very actively in the forefront of the coverage of the Asaram Bapu case, at least, because every day there were updates, and finally, and it was a relentless thing. We all got so much consumed by it that this guy has to go to jail. He is wrong. What he's doing is wrong. We cannot allow such people to thrive in this country. We got so focused in that it became, then that is when journalists almost become activists. And again, this is another thing I learned early in life, in the early years. And when my boss used to tell me, my editor used to tell me that while you do your stories and you get very excited and all, don't become an activist. You still remember that you are a journalist end of the day, and your job ends at a particular point of time. Beyond that, it's not your job to now go and make sure that he goes to jail. Leave that to the police. But in certain cases, it did happen. It does happen. that you make it your agenda, that we are going to consistently do this story and make sure that this wrong is exposed and justice is done. So similarly with the Nityanand story and all of that. So I'm giving these examples because these are areas where you need courage, where you need that courage of conviction to expose certain people who everybody thinks is like, a holy man, right? Now, that is one issue. Now, when does it become media trial? Now, this is a tricky thing because I feel that, again, a basic principle of justice is everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Now, somewhere down the line, has that changed? In this country, now, if you look at the way things are happening, that whole principle has got turned over. It's almost like you are guilty until proven innocent. So I have to take the example of the recent case of Sushant Singh Rajput's death because we were all actively covering even now. Now, what's happening there? Is it a case of one girl being made guilty and now she's guilty until she's proven innocent? That's how it is happening. So that is the kind of media trial which can be dangerous, which is against the natural principles of justice. Because how does the real legal system work? You frame charges against a person. The investigative agencies will have to frame charges. Those charges are then tested in a court of law, and then you are pronounced guilty or not guilty. Here, somebody is already pronounced guilty. And why has that happened? Because media has been browbeating over it day and night. And perhaps we are all guilty to a certain extent. Again, why I say this is a very tricky and a very nuanced subject is because I think Dr. Rahul Chanda mentioned that I am also doing a video blog, which is called Two Sides to the Coin. Now, in this blog goes to social media. By the way, a lot of us now who work for TV, also we have to contribute to the social media pages. That's part of the game. A lot of youngsters access news on social media. So news organizations have also diversified now that we are going to be available, not just on the channel, but also. So there, the blog that I do, I noticed it personally that the day I took up a topic of, say, environmental impact assessment, the EIA 2020, some of you might know, was a huge controversy, right? The government tried to do a lot of, just to get industry and ease of business, a lot of environmental clearances were given and all that was happening. So I took up that topic and I did a video on that, giving both sides of the story because my blog is on two sides. And I saw, and the next thing then the Sushant thing happened, I had to do a video on that as well. When I compare the viewership, I'm like, it's for anybody to see. There are 4,000 people watching that video and there's hardly anybody interested in environment. So what do we do now? Now this is when a journalist would be like, Arey, either now you can say, oh, this Sushant case is getting all the viewership, I'll do more of that. Let me continue to do more of that because that's how I will become famous. Now I need to be prominent. How will I ever get catapulted to fame? By doing stuff that people are watching. So now I'm in this ethical dilemma now, since we are talking ethics in journalism. Environment is something so critical now which needs to be there in the public discourse, and I have taken part in a lot of conversations that's happening from Assam also because we know about Dihing Patkai and we know the coal mining issue has become so big there, but there are few takers in the national audience, if you notice, for those subjects. And it's there in digital media. The thing is, the data is so clear that everything is visible. You can see that there are more people watching this, and you can even see the age group of people watching this. Now, therefore, that's my dilemma now. That should I do more of this, or should I? That is where I feel that you should be extremely clear that the onus is on the journalist. You know why? Because you are taking a decision on what you're covering. You cannot blame the audience and get away with it, saying, but they are watching more of this, so I am going to do more of that. No, because the onus is on you, what you are offering, and irrespective of what is being consumed. Again, I know the business considerations will come in, the sponsor issue will come in, that only when you get that many viewership are you likely to get a big sponsor. Keeping that aside, since we are talking ethics, I would say that stick to the fact that the onus is on you to do cover the issues of importance. The onus is on you because you are part of deciding the national discourse. You're part of actually forming public opinion. And that is a huge responsibility. The primary thing that journalists must be extremely aware of is because of the reach that you have, because of the mileage that you have, and television is such a powerful medium, it's an audio-visual medium, that by default, there is a lot of power that rests on you. And you are part of this game that is deciding the overall public opinion on issues, garnering public opinion on issues. So I would say that do not try and give that excuse that the audience wants more of this. Rather, I would say, again, I'm therefore coming back to the courage of conviction point. Argue with your editor and tell him, no, boss, I'm going to do this story. The environment story is more important today. Forget the actors who are consuming drugs. I'm not going to do that. The editor might argue with you, no, but you have to have your courage of conviction and the power of persuasion. Why I'm saying this is from my personal experience. I've seen editors actually have more respect for you if you do that. They do end up having, they might argue on the face of you, but in their hearts, they will have more respect for you, that here is somebody who's not running after name, fame, power. She's standing by her principles. And I have faced it so many times when I pitch stories from Assam. I am questioned, what the Assam story, so why would a person in Gujarat be interested? We are a national channel. Why would somebody sitting in Kashmir or Kanyakumari be interested in coal mining in Assam? What stakes he has? So, but you have to have the capability of giving it a national perspective or a global perspective. And I realized that it's possible. I used to always give this excuse when I was in Guwahati, that my stories I cover with so much difficulty, going to Tripura and going to Manipur, and they don't run the story, saying, "Arey, 100 stories mein se 25 story we can take." So it was not coming under our priority. Assam story did not feature in the overall priority list. And I would be frustrated. So much of frustration I went through because my stories would not be taken. You know what they would do? They would write it in the ticker. So there's a very convenient thing of, the bottom band that you have. So aapki story humne ticker pe chala diya. I would get damn frustrated about it because every other journalist, Delhi Bombay stories are stories. Story from Tripura and from your Imphal is ticker material. So that has been my struggle. Now what I realized is you cannot blame them. The reason you cannot blame them is how did you pitch your story? Did you pitch it correctly? Say Dihing Patkai. Who knows Dihing Patkai? Nobody has heard this term. How do you pitch it in a national news channel and say that the national audience would be interested in it? You can pitch it in a way that you make it a global story. Do you even know what these rainforests are about? They are such a precious resource that Assam has, that this is a asset for the planet that we are talking about. This is an asset of Mother Earth that they are tampering with. It's not about Assam story. It's not an Assam story. It's not even an India story. It's a global story. When I argued in this manner, when I said, therefore we must do it, the editors would obviously then take it up. They would say, yes, it makes sense. Rather than doing that, if you're constantly in that persecution complex and saying, "Arey, Assam ka story kaha national media mein chalega," doesn't work like that. You have to know how to pitch it. Now, all this may or may not be directly connected to ethics, but I think it is, because the moment you launch yourself into this business of journalism, everything is about ethics, I would say. And then there is, of course, a lot of people would argue about morality is subjective, and who decides what is ethical, and why should only journalists be bothered about ethics? Every other business also, how many people follow ethics? Why only journalists are
political parties.
yeah. So a lot of people question that this is not an exclusive preserve of only journalism. Every other profession should also be, brought under the same standards. So then I would say that, it's your principle, it's your level, the standards that you set, that you have to stand by, which is, again, I go back to my original principle: your courage, your attitude, and your temperament also, by the way, matters. Because when you go through that phase of frustration, which invariably happens with everybody, that is when your temperament matters. And that's the third point I was coming to, that more than your talent, your temperament matters to survive in these business. So your right approach, your right temperament, and your courage, these three things will hold you in good stead. And these three things will help you in sustaining the right principles of ethics in journalism. And since this is about COVID times, let me just end this by saying that in a pandemic situation, information is everything. People are hungry for information, right? So now is the time. Now, what happened with us is that one fine day, I am called to the editor's cabin. This was in February 2020, and told that, Afrida, you have to try and work and uplink from home. You know, you have to do your news bulletins from home. Can you try and do it? We are going to do an experiment. I'm like, as in, my entire news bulletin will be from home, what I do from studio? I was told, yes, we will be remote controlling the whole thing and we want to try with you. And I was like, oh God, why me? Why am I chosen as the guinea pig to do this? But I was the first one. By the way, I think I should take credit for this. That of all the news anchors in India, the one who first started this whole business of working from home and setting up camera, I think I am definitely one of the first who started this thing. So I came home, I set up sets, and then I did a trial and it worked well. Now, imagine, here is a setup like how I'm sitting right now. In fact, this is my set. I put a channel thing behind me and this is how I go. So now this situation obviously developed because we could see from January onwards and from mid-February onwards, we could see that this pandemic is upon us and people will have to stay home and we cannot shut shop. Fortunately, see, among all the businesses today, TV channels and TV news organizations have been fully functioning. We haven't got even taken a single day off. I haven't got any single luxury of not working, you know, like some other people have probably because of the pandemic times. But I think a lot of people are working from home as well. Why I was bringing this up is that then we are now all working from home. We have set up our little makeshift studios at home. And we are now, I'm stripped off all the luxuries. There's no hairstylist, there is no makeup, there is no sound engineer. I have to set up the camera and everything, lights and everything on my own, check audio, everything on my own. Why are we doing this? Because people out there are hungry for information. We cannot fail them. You know, we cannot shut shop because the appetite for information during COVID times is at its peak and everybody is glued to television, and more so because of lockdown, people are home. So how can we miss out on this opportunity to reach out to the audience at a time when they need us the most? So, you know, we had to rise to that occasion of doing it, and we were desperate that we will do it. And today we are doing it. Today, my camera is controlled from office, from the PCR in my head office in Mumbai. I'm sitting at home and I am able to do everything. I even have my Sunday debates with guests sitting in remote locations. We have made it happen. But the point I was coming to is that during this COVID times, this is what I would like to end with. This is something I say every time that I speak, that how can we help prevent this thing about fake news? In television, the simple thing is, because it's an audiovisual medium, seeing is believing. So when we report, we do not have an option. We have to show the footage, right? So how much can we lie? We are always substantiating whatever we are reporting with visuals. So if we say so many people drowned or this was what had happened, there will be visuals to show that, right? So in terms of TV news, I think it is still the most reliable, but one should not, of course, go with the WhatsApp communication and all of that. If you are to today go to the most reliable way of getting COVID information, I personally believe TV news is the best way. Why? Because you will be getting an actual doctor on the panel to talk about it. He will be giving you information. So he is visible, his designation is visible. So that is authentic information. Rather than that, if you depend on WhatsApp and you depend on other things circulated, first of all, my honest and ardent plea to everybody, do not believe anything that is circulating on WhatsApp or on any other social media unless it's authenticated. And frankly, there are very few ways, very few people can actually authenticate stuff. So today, if I see Dr. Devi Shetty's message on a WhatsApp, I'm not going to believe it's Dr. Devi Shetty. It could be anybody posting it in his name. But yes, if I see Dr. Devi Shetty's video with his designation and he's saying certain things, I take it. There is Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's the head of the Center for Infectious Disease in US, who's the primary advisor to Donald Trump, the US president. In his name, so much of fake information has been spreading in WhatsApp. And I always, whenever something of that nature comes, I always say, I don't believe this. I go, as a consumer, I depend on information on TV news because there's a person who's visible, who's talking, whose designation is there. You can immediately Google and check if he's the real person also if you really want to, but at least make sure you authenticate. That is as a not even as a journalist and as a consumer of news, you must do. Because remember, as a journalist, you will have to be the biggest consumer of news. Today, I have to spend bulk of my time consuming news. And then I am ready to deliver or I'm ready to form my perspective and opinion. The primary job of a journalist today, what has changed is what I want to end with finally, is that people already know everything because everything comes on the phone as updates. So your primary job as a journalist now has become to give perspectives, to connect things. So such and such thing has happened in Trivandrum, such thing has happened in Bangalore, say the drugs racket. There's a sandalwood drugs racket now. There is a smuggling case in Kerala happening, the gold smuggling. Gold is being smuggled with dates and with whatnot. Now you see all of this thing happening, and as a journalist, your job is to connect, to give an overall picture that these are the kind of networks operating in this country, and this is how it's happening. So you have to now go a little beyond only reporting facts. Only reporting facts phase is when we were launched into journalism. The next generation, the job will be a little bit more than that, I believe. Your job will be to, again, not just give facts, but also interpret them and help people understand with the correct perspective. And that perspective you can only build if you consume enough news and facts from all across, national and international. And while you do that, you have to be very careful about authenticity, is my advice to you. And remember, what is the difference between a layman and a journalist is that a normal person would hear and not listen. A journalist doesn't just hear, he listens. A normal person may see and not observe. As a journalist, you not only see, you observe. So remember these things and remember the basic principles of ethics. And like I keep repeating, your courage of conviction, your approach to a certain thing, your attitude is more important than your aptitude, your courage more important than your caliber, your temperament is more important than your talent. I think I should end with that note. I've spoken enough. There might be questions, and I don't know if others also want to come into the conversation. Please feel free.
Yes, thank you very much, Afrida ma'am, for your words. A very practical approach and perspective our students got to learn today with your practical experiences which they heard. It was a very practical kind of session. Now, sir, I'll just ask our honorable vice chancellor, sir, are you free now? Can we?
Yes. I got myself free because I was. That's why I've used this earphones to listen to Afrida, and in between I could listen so many things, and especially I was really impressed the way the way journalists should do, and the way she has put up many examples in front of us. That how not only Sushant Singh case, which is the most popular one, but otherwise also the way journalists they do media trials, and the way the whole media is doing a trial before it goes to the court, and all of us are sitting day and night and trying to find out and judge individuals based upon what media is talking about them. So that way things have gone in a very, very different direction, I would say that. But then I think somehow or other we majorly are missing. I mean, in fact, I'm telling you, I stopped watching news. This is my 3rd month. I have not seen even a news channel. And I missed many things. I tell you, while I stopped using news channels, viewing news channels, I missed many good news also. But I compromised to not to know many good things in place of knowing bad things, in place of knowing wrong things, in place of knowing which probably I'm not interested in knowing, which probably is of no value to me, which is all valuable to only journalists and all valuable to the media. So what I wanted to make a point out here is that many people like me, it's not me alone. All my friends, they stopped watching news. All my family members, they stopped watching news. It's going to be a revolt against media in some time. I hope it should be that we, in the name of TRP, is doing whatever, people will reject and deject us, maybe someday. And that is where the ethics and value. I remember, Frida, 19, 20 years back, I used to teach ethical marketing and people used to laugh on it. What marketing? Marketing means selling a comb to a bald man. But that was once upon a time, but now everybody's talking about ethics and values. I tell you an example, I was thinking a few days back, you go to a vendor who is putting his shop or maybe a vegetable shop on the roadside, and while he was putting things around, I've seen a fish man selling his fish on the roadside. I'm telling you, the marketing, everybody knows marketing, but all marketing people think is ethical. When we use the word marketing, means unethical, means you keep a fish, the live fish, in a fish area where all dead fish are there, and those will be the most stale fish living with the fish which is live. Means he's trying to market the dead fish in the name of live fish in the market where we are selling fish. This is the kind of ethics we have from bottom to top with respect to marketing, and same is going with the media also. So I'm not negative. What probably I wanted to say that people who are ethical now, things are changing in the digital world, things are changing very fast, and if we are going to have the right perspective about anything, and people are more transparent about their products, more transparent about their values and ethics, and what they showcase in the news platform and what they showcase as a media, I think we all are prudent enough. And if rest of the people who are not prudent today, they will become prudent tomorrow or day after tomorrow, and they will discard. So I'm very, very impressed by the topic being chosen, ethics in journalism in COVID times. It's not in COVID times, throughout my life. Fortunately, I know so many good journalists whom I know, they neither were leftist nor they were aligned. They were really good journalists. I'm talking about why? Because genuinity is directly proportional to what you say today and you maintain 20 years down the line. If you say something today and day after tomorrow you change your mindset, it means you are not journalist, you are aligned to somebody and somewhere. And that way we are watching, and I'm trying my level best in my institution that we produce such kind of people in our mass communication department who has real good ethics and value, and they probably in due course of time may change the scenario and scene of journalism in this country. It's very, very unfortunate in last 30, 40 years, whatever little prudence I have, I really have seen is going in a wrong direction. I'm so sorry to say it's going in a wrong direction because I myself have stopped watching news after so many years. So this is what I wanted to say. I think maybe I'm right or wrong.
Mirror now. You should watch Mirror now.
Okay.
I promise you, we don't do anything toxic. And yeah,
Thanks.
the right choice, the choices that you make. But I do agree with you that the bulk of the national news television now is mired with this kind of, one-sided narrative and batting for a certain, and the viewers can see through it. So the discerning lot, like Professor Singh, is obviously disappointed. So it is going to happen. The thinking minds will get repulsed because you do not want to be fed with that kind of hate and being told what to think and be fed with a certain narrative. You don't feel comfortable with it. You have a mind, you can think for yourself. So I, by the way, don't do that. And I'm still old school. I am called old school because I say that no, as a journalist, you have to give both the sides and allow the viewer to decide, But anyway, thank you for those words.
Absolutely, Afida. I'm so happy that I will definitely watch Mirror. And I can assure you, I will tell you the honest feedback also. Yeah, I will give you the honest feedback also. And I think you're very right. As soon as we switch on anything, we are aligned. We know that person who is telling about this story is aligned, and the person who is listening to this story is also aligned. So this is somehow is disturbing to all of us. So thank you. From my side, I'll be there with
Thank
you
you,
for
sir.
some time. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And Afrida, it was a wonderful discourse, and I watch your new shows, okay, regularly, and I'm a big fan, huge fan of yours, and you speak excellently. Just keep it up, and we are very proud of you. And yeah, over to Rahul, over to Dr. Rahul.
Thank you very much to our honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for his kind words. And whenever he speaks, he always gives some new perspective to the entire topic, which I really appreciate and admire. So coming back to Afrida ma'am, we have certain questions. Okay, we are getting some questions which you have already talked about. We will not pick it up. but there are also some questions which you did not discuss maybe. So I'll just
Okay.
stick to, because we just have 5 more minutes. All right.
Sure.
So one question we received is, because people know that you have worked in Assam, and now you are working in national media. Obviously, through national media only you worked in Assam also. But then people want to know from you, because you have worked in Assam and in Delhi and Mumbai. So talking about ethics and the approaches which journalism takes in Assam and Mumbai, what's the difference? Media ownership, and how, are journalists different in their approach in regional area like Assam, or in a national platform like Mumbai and Delhi? What is the difference? What do
Yeah,
you
so
see?
I do not have experience of working in any of the regional platforms. Do I know many of the journalists who work for regional platforms? I think the regional news, I find that, now at one time we thought that national news will be some way pushed to the sidelines and regional media will become more popular, because we thought that it is not possible for a national channel to address so many 29 states, and do full justice to the stories that's happening there. So the regional media addresses those issues in depth, and therefore at one time we thought that maybe but then that has not happened till now. Even people who are into news actually watch both. But yes, there are certain language issues, like for example in Assam, people are definitely more comfortable with the local language channels. But there is a danger. I feel the local, I mean, pardon me if I'm wrong, and please feel free to correct me. I think the regional media is equally toxic. They also have this, they've picked up the wrong things from national media. So if you're asking me whether it's anyway somehow a different, completely different kind of journalism that regional media does, I'm sorry to say, I would have liked to see that. But I see the Assamese channels, the regional channels, their way of reporting, they are not able to pick up the good things. Rather, they have picked up some things which are working, and they have taken it even to another level, some of the things. So I would say it's not, I don't see the right now, at least with the TV news scenario, whether it is the regional channels or the national channels, there is a lot to be desired. Let's put it that way. And I think the new generation of journalists will make the change. Today, my kids, they think very differently. They are not interested in all this divisive politics and right and left. They only know right and wrong. What is this rightist and leftist? They are not bothered with this. They are very logical, the new generation, and they are very, they would ask the right questions and they stick to what is fair. And I will just use this opportunity to say another thing about the polarized kind of debates, which Professor Singh was also referring to, that the danger is that you take a position already, like you have decided that you're a Modi supporter or the support of the current government. Now, whatever this government does, you will support. It should not be like that. Or, for example, you have decided you're against the current ruling party, and whatever this government does, you're against. I do not believe in that. Therefore, I do not take any pre-decided position on any topic. I do not see whether this is a policy taken by this party or that party. I see whether this is a policy which is in the right interest or not. So I think whether in the regional TV or in the national TV, this is lacking. Journalists come from pre-decided positions and then they are batting towards that side, which is unfortunate. And I think it's same across board, if that is the question that you were asking.
Okay, thank you very much, Afrida ma'am. I wanted to pick up some more questions, but we don't have time now. It's already almost
Okay.
4. So I will just deliver the vote of thanks. And delivering the vote of thanks, I want to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. S.P. Singh sir, Honorable Academic Chairperson, Professor A.K. Buraguha sir, Honorable Executive Vice President Ankur Pansari sir, Honorable Registrar ma'am Angira Mimani, our Head of the Department RSCOM Florence Hendig Rabha ma'am, and obviously Afrida ma'am for such a practical giving such a practical viewpoint to our students. And I hope, because you are from Guwahati, I expect and I request you that whenever you come down to Guwahati, please visit us, talk to our
Definitely. I'd
students.
love to. I'd love to.
And I also thank all the participants, my students, teachers, senior teachers, scholars, Bijoyda and the IT team. I thank you everyone for this webinar, and I hope that we keep organizing such webinars in coming days also. Thank you very much, Afrida ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence.